Happy Christmas.
We can Kwanzaa, actually.
Merry Crisis. Merry Crisis.
So, folks, it is good to be back together with the boys. Not to be confused with the boys streaming on Amazon Prime. We've got some more episodes for you, which is very exciting. We are looking at season 3, episodes 1 and 2. So we're starting off a brand new. We're cracking open a can of Community. It's gonna be a great old time. Starting off with Biology 101. This is the season 3 opener. Jonathan, what do you like? What was your A+ for the episode?
So, let's see here. I liked the little bit at the end where Starburns gets himself kicked out of biology by being like, so you're really good at science and I make drugs. So we can do like a little Breaking Bad thing going on here.
Sorry, Starface, you just lost your seat in my class.
Yeah. So that was fun. There wasn't really anything in this episode that I like loved, joke wise, or like really in terms of a scene. It was fun to see Jeff freak out. I love like we talk about this all the time. I love explosive moments, like in the show.
Can it
screams?
boobs.
Yeah, can it boobs? That's always fun. But yeah, really. Actually, the dean had a good line where he's talking with Vice Dean Lehorn. He's like, but the AC repair school is an annex, an appendage, and on this head. Or yeah, in a part of this head, and this head's going, what's up? Yeah.
What you say makes sense, Dean.
Yeah. I was like, come on down to the annex tomorrow and I'll show
What's
you.
up?
Bring your head down to my appendage.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the A+ for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think John Goodman kills this episode. And I mean, all of his appearances. This is probably one of those episodes where I think the side characters take over more for me than the 7 really don't do much for me. But Michael Kenneth Williams, rest in peace, as Professor Marshall Kane, does great. And then John Goodman, like those two should probably have won awards for their acting in this because they did a great job. And honestly, like the Dean does a great job. You know, we get to see him kind of start to be more of a major player in the show. I feel like the side plots, like with Vice Dean Lehorn and Dean Pelton, I think it's more fun. Even though I don't love the AC repair school arc overall, I don't know, kind of weird, but I love John Goodman. I think he kills it.
Oh yeah.
I didn't really have a lot of A+ scenes though. This episode I wasn't a huge fan of, so I don't know. Christian, what'd you got for A+ scenes and lines?
I picked a couple that I thought were kind of fun, but they weren't like, if I were to be asked what my favorite lines of Community are, they wouldn't be. I do like Shirley sitting by Starburns in the first day of class, and she's like, "Oh, Starburns, I see you added a lizard to your special hat and sideburns. Am I missing anything?" And Starburns is like, "Yeah, the human being underneath it all, but no one's really interested in that, are they?" And then Shirley's like, "No." That's like the only time her baby talk is kind of actually funny.
Yeah, they use that well. Yeah.
But yeah, Starburns. The way she says it too. Starburns.
Yeah.
Starburns. Because it's kind of funny how he adds something every season. First it was just the Starburns, and we're like, if that's not outlandish enough to identify him, he has a top hat, and now he's a lizard. What season does he fake his own death? Season 5?
That feels like season 5.
I think so. Yeah. I love Dean Lehorn's power speech. He's like, "And you never had to know about this, Dean. You could have lived your life as an ignorant pansexual imp.
Yeah.
If you wanted to feel power this year, so feel my power surging from me to you, mouth to rectum, now until the end of time." And it's just
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I forgot everything you said after rectum. Or was it before rectum? I think it's before rectum. I also like we get introduced to Inspector Spacetime in this episode.
Yeah.
Which is obviously it's Doctor Who. The question isn't where are we, Constable, but when.
I love
go ahead.
before they introduce Inspector Spacetime. Well, the funny thing with the Inspector Spacetime thing is when they start it, like after that line, Albert goes, "This is the greatest show I've ever seen."
Because Cougar Town got canceled.
Yeah.
Moved to mid-season.
Or moved to mid-season,
which
yes.
is basically
So-
canceled.
yes,
we
basically
know it,
canceled.
right?
So
After
Abed is-
Jericho lasted 2 seasons, we knew it was going to go away.
Come on, Jake.
Jake, I need you to believe me. Right now.
So Abed's going through a crisis.
I was going through a crisis. So Britta is the worst, right? But she's actually trying to help, and that's kind of the running joke. So she finds Cougarton Abbey, which is the British sitcom that Cougar Town is based off of, which is kind of a dig at maybe The Office or just
I'm
a lot of-
guessing.
I-
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny because it is kind of shot like a Mr. Bean-esque, like kind of like the really weird. It's not HD, but it's that like smooth camera work. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That like British sitcoms in the 90s had.
Mhm.
Not that I've seen many of them, but I have BBS or BBC on my cable, so I just flip past it every once in a while. But and it's like, oh, they only lasted 6 episodes because they give you closure,
Yeah.
but they all just commit suicide at the end. And Abed goes freaking out. And there's the Troy line. There's like, you are human tennis elbow. You are the pizza burn on the roof of the world's mouth. You are the opposite of Batman. Which I don't know. I love. I mean, obviously Troy and Britta have a lot of chemistry, and so it's fun whenever they have those banter. But then there's also a point where he's like, "Why don't you go start a ruiners club?" Oh wait, you probably ruin it. And then she's like, "Well, if I was ruining it, that'd mean I was doing a good job, wouldn't it?" And you ruined my analogy.
Yeah.
And Britta has a good way of making arguments annoying. Like I used to
Yeah.
make arguments annoying. Like Ethan probably hated whenever I argued with our sister growing up because it was just like antagonizing and just keep going, and I was having to get the last word. I shouldn't have done it. Like I get it, but it's just one of those like, oh, shut up! Like you don't need to keep going. So yeah,
I hear you, man.
yeah. So for our diorama question, gentlemen, if you were in Shang's situation, you needed to work on campus for room and board, what job would you be willing to hold on campus at Greendale?
I said I'd be willing to be a teacher or a professor for literally any subject, really, because I feel like honestly, it's like you can kind of just do what you want.
What was the TV show that you said you'd be a professor for?
Oh yeah, that was what's it called, Family or Glorified Crew?
The Sopranos.
Walk
Yep.
through the Sopranos. Yeah,
Yes.
so I definitely have a Sopranos class.
Would you have like a talk like an Italian in a movie class? Like you're not actually learning Italian.
Yeah,
You're learning. Yeah.
Fugazi. You know, you gotta you gotta
Leave the cannoli.
lips a little bit.
Our
Yeah.
professor said that we get extra credit if we bring our books in a violin case.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely bring you guys in to like do a little like a TED Talk kind of style thing
Yeah.
on Frasier. Little
Sitcoms.
yeah.
Romantic situations. What do these things have in common?
Yeah. Let's talk. But yeah, definitely professor. So what about y'all?
I said school dance planner because you
Mm.
literally have job security because there's always weird dances going on
Oh,
in
yeah.
Greendale. And kind of like with classes, you could pick any theme as a
Mhm.
dance and the dean's probably going to go with it. You know?
Good call.
Tina, turn the clock. Or turn the clock forward,
What's
I guess.
Dean got to do?
Cotillion. I think school dance planner would be an easy job at
That would be.
Greendale.
And then you could just reuse the same decorations and put dog ears on them.
Mm.
Bear down for midterms.
Bear down for midterms.
It's got a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
No, fat target for midterms.
Fat dog.
Man, I miss John Oliver.
Yeah.
I would be an omnipresent human being, the mascot.
Oh, yeah.
Because allegedly, I did that in college. I was the mascot for the university.
Nice.
And I was just like, man, if they just pay me to walk around campus for like a couple hours a day and just like interact with students, I would love that. But you can't really, it's not cost effective and probably wouldn't really do a whole lot.
Mhm.
But I'm like, you're just being paid to be a mascot and you're fun and people are always excited to see you.
Yeah.
Maybe I could figure out a way to like get in Laybourne's good graces and like, hey, can we get a new human being costume? And it's actually like like a plastic head, like
yeah. With the regular body still.
with a regular
yeah.
body.
With one of those big hats that says Greendale, like
Yeah,
NFL players
no,
are using.
but the catch should be that I'd have to have the AC Repair School, like just like I always have to carry out a giant sign for the AC Repair School,
Yeah.
right? Kind of like how there's like shameless advertising on literally everything in sports, right? Because I don't know, yeah, I think it'd be fun. Like just randomly, you'd be like walking down the halls, you'd see the human being, like, hey, can we take a photo?
Yeah.
And his name would be like Huey.
Yeah.
Huey.
Huey. Huey the human.
Huey. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I like that. Leading the class. What do you think, Jonathan? Who's leading it for you?
I had Dean on this one originally.
Hmm.
Like now kind of sitting back on it. I think I appreciated like at first the different energy that he came in with. Trying to like improve the school, trying to improve his work. What's it called? His work performance. But like Ethan mentioned earlier, like the side characters in this really kind of take the cake of the episode. So really, okay, if I'm thinking about this episode, if someone read me like a 2-second synopsis, I'd think, oh, this was the episode where John Goodman shows up and like does all that. So I think really in terms of remembering it for the future, I'm going to remember this as like, oh, the episode that John Goodman showed up, rather than like, oh, this is the
more
mean machine.
Yeah, Jeff goes on a weird power trip.
Yeah.
Pierce is almost out of the group, but
right.
What about y'all?
I said Pierce.
Yeah, I said Pierce.
Because he takes the fall.
Yeah,
kind of has a hero moment.
What makes me really mad? Or sorry, keep going.
No, that was pretty much all I was going to say.
What makes me mad is that he still doesn't go over at the end of that interaction with Jeff, though. Like, Jeff doesn't say thank you. He's like, man, he's like, I was so bad at being a bad person. I let you do the fall that makes me a bad person. And then Pierce is like, we're the same person. And Jeff's like, let's not go that far. And then it's again, like, just let Pierce have one. Like, Jeff is the worst in this episode. Like, there's no redemption. Like, other than like, oh, I guess I was too focused on not letting Pierce in the group, right? Like, So yeah, I said Pierce, and I think this next stretch of episodes that we're going to be talking about, I think Pierce is. I mean, he is fun. He's fun to watch. He's not unbearable. I mean, he's still a racist old man, so I guess I shouldn't say that he's fun to watch to be PC. But it's. I
think this is probably maybe the funnest stretch we get of Pierce, though.
Yeah,
he's kind of okay.
Yeah,
he's bearable.
I agree. He's like not antagonistic. He's not an antagonist.
Yeah, he's not the villain,
except for the plot different timeline episode.
Oh, right.
But
yes.
yeah, exactly. Do you guys have any extra credit? I had more just kind of like thoughts, not necessarily trivia bits.
Same. Or yeah, like go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, so first of all, the opening daydream doesn't seem like something Jeff would do. It seems like something that Abed would think Jeff would do, because I definitely, because I mean in season 4 it's Abed's daydream, that's what we do, and I remember this being Abed's daydream. I don't know why. I remembered it being like, oh, Abed is like, he sees Jeff as like this, like, higher than that, holier than thou, so he's gonna be flying, and he definitely sees that Annie and Jeff are like googly eyes, so they want to sleep together. But in hindsight, it does make sense that Jeff would have that in his daydream, like, we're gonna sleep together, which is you. Couple things about Jeff's cell phone in this episode, which is a weird thing for me to get hooked up on, but like, so in his daydream, there's his like metaphor is that he starts eating his cell phone. He like takes a bite out of it. I want to know how they did that. Did they have like a fake phone? Like, is it cake?
I was gonna say, what
is it cake?
How did she get there? But maybe I'm weird. Okay, we know that I am. But have you ever had a taste of plastic in your mouth, or like imagine what plastic would taste like, or like smelled burning? I mean, you smell burning plastic. Like, I've had dreams where I eat or chew on like a cell phone, or so like a Jeff.
I've had this dream before,
right? And it just doesn't taste good. And whenever I watch that, I'm like, I can taste that, which is so weird. And I know that's weird. But lastly, how did Jeff get the blade of grass through his phone? Because that's how he gets back in the class, essentially, is he shows to Kane that he can let life come in, because Kane makes a remark that he's always on his phone, he puts his own walls up, he's not really living life. So did he take a drill and like drill through his Chrome screen and like slide it over the blade of grass? Like, how did he do it? He obviously didn't actually grow the piece of grass. Like, how did he do it?
No, that's how I always like imagine, like he either got like a hammer and a nail or a drill, and then just like pretty much cracking a hole and then put it on there. And
because it'd be kind of funny if we found out he didn't really actually let the grass grow, he killed the grass and just put it on top of his phone.
Yeah.
Like, that would be more in line with Jeff personally.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to think, because you mentioned this with like the last point of just how Pierce does like this really kind thing, and like Jeff never really says thank you. And like I'm thinking about the show, and like I think I used to think, oh, Jeff is just a guy who's like cool and like wants to be hip, and he's like kind of sad and broken, but at the end of the day just wants to be a lawyer and like wants to go back his life, but then he finds his friends kind of thing. But like as we were like rewatching, I'm like, oh, like, okay, I thought Jeff was more like Star-Lord, and he's more like, it's like, less
More like
Star
Agent
Lord.
Coulson.
Well, not even that, because like at least Agent Coulson's like a nice person.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah. Good
so
point.
it's like he's more like
Drax. No,
I'm trying to think of a good like MCU example. He's more
more like X-Men Origins Wolverine.
he's
Anything that
he's more like the first like Iron Man before like his car flips over. So like what we see in that flashback in Iron Man 3 where he's like a douche at the New Year's Eve party, and like before his car flips over and he's like, you know, cool and all that stuff and arrogant. Like that's like oh, you're not a cool person to be around. Like you're like, yeah, you're talented and you're like fun, but I'm like, oh, you're a bad person. I'm like, I don't know. It's a weird like shift for me where it's like, oh, I thought Jeff was like always like the hero, and it's like he is,
but you don't want to root for him.
Yeah, like I don't want.
Yeah, you don't want to be like him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like Patrick Bateman.
Yeah,
you're missing the point by idolizing him.
Yeah. I was actually watching this interview recently where Christian Bale was talking about how like he, for I think a movie later he like went onto a Wall Street floor and like they're like, oh yeah, we love I'm impersonating Christian Bale I was talking to, that's why I'm doing it in the British accent.
Right.
So he's like, oh yeah, we love Patrick Bateman. He's like, yeah, ironically, right? Like, you know, he's a monster and you know all these things. Like, no, we love him. Like, and so that meant nothing. But
no, you're right. And I don't see and I think Abed makes that remark in like season 2 whenever they have that big group argument with like, I know the difference between movies and TV, or movies in real life, because in movies there's a likable leading man. In real life we have you.
Sick burn,
right?
Dang, I'm gonna go off.
If I had a nickel for every time I made that joke. Cha-ching! But yeah, I don't think Dan Harmon ever asks us to root for Jeff. He lays it out, and Jeff even remarks on how broken he is. I just think it's our natural inclination as TV watchers is you want to like the main character. And I think Jeff is the mainest character. I would say that he is.
He's in every episode.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
I thought it was good. Not great for sure. I was talking to Christian about this before you came over, Ethan, but like season 1, like this is a better season than season 1 for sure. But like season 1 had a lot of like great lines, memorable moments, funny quips. And it's interesting to think that like I think we have better episodes now. I think that the writing's a lot tighter. I think they have a better idea of how to use the entire group for sure. But I can't like again in this stretch of episodes. This is one episode, obviously, but in season 3 so far, as I've kind of like prepared for like a rewatch, I can't think of like, oh, I guess for example, like with the pilot, like I'm looking forward to the line where Jeff is like, play football, it's in your blood. That's racist. Like, you know what I mean? Like that whole, so like there's not a lot of those moments. There's not a lot of moments, individual like moment lines in season 3 that I feel. And it's
right.
And it happened in season 2 as well. Like most of like the clips. Go ahead.
I'll counter. Do you think that we have been conditioned to expect one-liners in a show? Is that what makes the show good?
No.
Like, you know, 6 seasons in a movie. Like, that's iconic. That's like the quote of the show. Like, do you think that an episode of Community has to have memorable one-liners to be good? Or does it just have to have, like... I know what I'm trying to say. Like, the one-liners make it memorable. Memorable means good, mostly, unless you're remembering the dual credit student episode. Then that's memorable in a bad way. But, like, does the episode need to have one-liners to be a good episode?
I think it needs to be funny because it's a comedy. And one-liners generally are how a lot of sitcoms write their jokes.
Right.
So
then also, I need to ask, is humor then, is it how well it resonates with one person, or is it how it resonates with an entire audience? Because like some people probably think that monkeys are hilarious, and none of us do. I mean, unless Jonathan does.
Nope.
But that's why they have it in the show, is because people think that monkeys are funny, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't even know why I got on that soapbox. It was just something to think about and something to talk through. But yeah, I get that.
I hear you. Like, I think ultimately, like the show is better. The show is definitely better than what it's been, especially season 1. Season 2's arguably the peak of Community, so like we might not hit that. But I mean, for example, like the last paintball episode, the 2-parter at the end of season 2, that's probably the best episode of the series, and or best episode like arc in the series. And there's not like really a key line that I go back to in there. Like I can remember lines from it, like you know when Magnitude dies, or like Operation Super Awesome Better Plan. You know what I mean? Like I can remember stuff from that, but it's not as like catchy as hearing Chen go gay. Like it's just like it's not the things I'm going to quote. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So did you rate the episode?
I'll give it 7 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go. I originally had 6 out of 10. I think I'm going to change mine to a 7 out of 10 to kind of be more in line with you. I think this episode's fine. I'm kind of with you. It's not. I think season 2 for me is peak Community as well. So I think this just suffers from the fact that now we're not in season 2.
Yeah.
And that's not really fair necessarily to judge it based off of that. But to me, it's just we're in a new season. It's starting to go downhill. Or now we who have watched the series realize that. I think that the show has hit its peak. It's still better than probably every other season except for season 2. I think my rating probably goes season 2, and then this season's probably the second best in my mind.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think season 3, like comparing this to season 1, I think season 1 has some really good moments and some really bad moments. It kind of it has, I think, peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
I think season 3 is pretty consistently, it's good. It doesn't really hit those same lows as season 1, but it also doesn't have the same highs, I don't think.
I agree.
And this one's just it's a fine episode. It's good for a season opener, I think, but it's just got a weird feel for some reason to me.
Yeah, I think it would be good if it wasn't the season opener.
Maybe.
I think that they're just. I mean, we ended with this big cliffhanger with Pierce leaving and paintball. I think, and I don't know. I don't want to be brutal about it. Like I don't feel like it was a great way to open up season 3.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But yeah, that's.
It's just like I said. I like the Dean and Vice Dean, that plot, and that's good. This is setting up, I think, some for the later season with Chang and the AC Repair School. But for the City Group, I never really felt like, I don't know, I didn't really feel that interested in the plot. I think because of that, Pierce leaves at the end of season 2. There's this cliffhanger, and then now Pierce is back, so kind of really no payoff because.
And by this point, it doesn't feel like the conflict is even really relevant. Like the whole conflict happens because Jeff doesn't want Pierce back in the City Group. So that's not a likable conflict because you're like, Jeff, just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
But you're being a dick. And then the group is just about like, well, honestly, the group doesn't really care either way. Like they don't push back against Jeff. They don't condemn Jeff. Really? I mean, yeah. I don't know.
And I think maybe there's probably, an underlying commentary about how much Jeff controls the group. And maybe this is kind of that, the wave. And then the table is kind of the metaphor, but Jeff kind of has that unspoken control, but we kind of see that, we realize that he's not a perfect leader either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair. What'd you give it a ranking?
I said 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
I had 6 out of 10. I raised it up a point just because I feel like I was a little hard on it when I watched the episode. But it's a fine episode. It's not memorable, but it's I laughed a little bit. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
I think I echo, or I stand by the idea that it's not a bad episode. I think there needs to be the conflict of like, oh, Jeff really needs to get his biases in check, and he can't control the study group. It just wasn't. I feel like season finales and season openers need to be really strong to like start off and end the season right, and it just didn't do that for me. It just didn't feel like anything special. So my rating, we're bringing back the nonsensical ratings. The Dean's goatee was pretty solid. So in terms of facial hair, I give this episode a mutton chops out of Ethan's mustache. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Not the best. The mutton chops, not the best out of the best. So,
all right, on to episode 2 of season 3, Geography of Global Conflict. This is a very memorable episode to me. What synopsis, Christian? You want to break us down? What's the episode about? Oh, you got a mouthful. Jonathan, you want to break us down? What's the episode about?
So Chang gets a new job working basically security for the university, or excuse me, the community college. He's obviously horrible at it, and as well, he really doesn't have any power, which is a good thing. So at the same time, Britta reacts to her friend being taken hostage in Syria, I think, something like that.
Something like that.
A girl she used to protest with.
Yeah,
right?
protest with. I love like we'll get into that as the episode. I love that desire to like you see somebody do something great and you're like, I could have done that. I'm going to share some personal stories. This is going to be good. But
I love personal stories. That's why I share them in every episode.
Yeah. Then Annie asked the group to help bring down her new friend, Asian Annie, or is it Little Annie?
Annie Kim.
Annie Kim.
Annie Kim, thank you.
Other Annie.
Yeah, other Annie. They're ruthless. Not Asians.
Women.
And
They'll sneak up on you. Not women. Asians.
Yeah. Then Professor Cligoris
Cligoris?
Either pronunciation is
Yeah.
fine.
Struggles to So yeah, so I mean that's pretty much the main plots of the episode. For me, there wasn't a bunch of A+ stuff. I thought the line, or I just think it's like kind of funny. Didn't get me like rolling over or nothing. But when Jeff goes, Annie, you're acting like a schoolgirl and not a hot way, and then like she gets up and leaves, and like everyone's looking at him. He's like, I understand how that was creepy, but let me say something, and just walks away.
Yeah, I love the timing of it.
Yeah. And I guess so this is like the main thing that kind of hit me the most. I guess I kind of mentioned it with Britta's stuff there, but I love the idea of like seeing a paramour or like a contemporary of yours in like your past succeed when they had like when you had pretty much the same opportunity, same like status as them.
Like you guys were on equal footing, and now they've stepped up.
Yeah, I remember there was a guy from my high school name, like his name was Hayden, and like we were in the same like same sort of classes. Pretty much like we had like this like 4-year program of like if you wanted to be like a medical professional, doctor, nurse, whatever, like you did these things. And me and Hayden like did it all 4 years, and like consistently like I outperformed him in terms of tests and in terms of grades. In our final like project my senior year, like I got high praise for that. So like I remember going on Facebook somewhat recently and seeing that like he got into medical school. He like he did it. Like
Right.
And he did the thing. And like for me, like I still want to be like a doctor one day. Like that's still a personal goal of mine. And so it's not like that like dream isn't dead for me or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that like not like I'm better than him and I can do it, but like I did think to myself like, oh, I remember him, and like the difference between me and him is that he didn't quit. Like he didn't change his major. He like just stuck with it. And so that like it wasn't like it was sobering, but it was also like very good for me to see that they're like, oh, he just didn't give up and like just kept with it. And like,
yeah,
that's the only difference between like me and him. And like for Britta here, like that's the difference between Britta and this person is that like Britta can't commit to anything.
Right.
She can't commit to her own.
But she's got highlighters now, so she's going to do
it. Yeah. But she can't commit to her own activism. And so like, I just love like the jealousy of it. She's like,
right.
She has a Facebook page and like all this stuff. So that was like the best stuff for me in the episode. Now the way that played out with Chang, I hated that. Like the weird, like, I don't know, twisted romance of it. Like I didn't like that, but like that sentiment, like the beginning of that. So yeah,
it's kind of funny. I extrapolated something completely different, but also, I mean, like, not yours isn't wrong. I like that interpretation. I saw Britta as more of like performative activism.
That's how I saw it too.
Right. Through the lens of like, oh, I wish that I was still doing that. Like, because I think that's something that people can relate to, right? Is like, oh, this person went even farther than I did. Now she's in prison. I'm in community college. I need to get my act together. Right. Like, and so it really bothers me. Performative activism. Should it really, like, should it be an issue for me? I really don't know, because it's still activism. I guess for me, it's the holier than thou attitude. And Britta, Britta is the caricature of that, obviously. Personally, I actually kind of enjoyed the Britta and Chang interaction. I don't really know why, looking back. I think it was just because they kept playing Hello at the end of it.
That's
and it was almost like, so I think what I liked about it was, here are these two like larger than life characters, right? They think that they are the main character of their movie. They think that they're like, you know, she is going to lead an army of shaved head activists into like PETA and rescue all the animals, right? He thinks that he's like, a beat cop or a noir detective in like New York City. And they're on a college campus in Colorado. It's a community college. So like nothing big happens. And that's kind of the same thing with our college growing up, is like we try to make things happen and nothing really happened. But so I did like that they were like completing each other, of like, oh, I'm the bad stirring up trouble girl, and he's the law that needs to tell me that I'm doing stuff bad. And then he's like, well, I'm the law enforcement and she's the troublemaker. So like I need to have somebody that causes trouble to be a security guard, right?
Mhm.
So I did kind of like that. A couple other things about the episode that I really liked. Or sorry, go ahead.
Well, I to add to that point, I will say like Chang and Britta don't have a lot of storylines together.
Yeah.
So like in terms of
Yeah.
like character, like interactions and like dynamics, that is good. Like that.
Yeah, they do usually seem to have good dynamic when they do work together.
Mhm.
Like there's, I think it's season 2 where he calls her the worst, and it's just kind of like he just kind of has a hatred for her,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that's just the way they kind of bicker, and they're both kind of just like little kids, like picking at each other.
Right.
It's always fun.
Or
But
season 1 where he's like, say bagel or say bagel.
Oh, yeah.
Bagel.
you're the worst.
worst.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah. Because here's another thing, another hypothesis. They're both pretty annoying characters, so maybe the fact that they're too annoying in the same
plot.
it frees up annoyingness from the other parts of the episode.
I don't think they're annoying in this episode though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
I think their plot's fun. I mean, I don't think it's the best plot, but I think it's fine. Like,
right. I don't know. That's mostly a joke. But Ethan, what are some of the things that you liked about the episode?
I mean, have we even really mentioned that this is the Model UN episode? Did you mention that?
I mean,
This is the Model UN episode. Like, that's kind of the main point of the episode. We've kind of been on Britta and Chang, which is fine. But to me, the UN plot is obviously the best plot, and this is one of my probably in a top 5 episodes for me. Maybe there's so many good lines, and I don't want to take them all. But there's a good Chang line where he's talking to, I can't remember the name of the head security guard,
Nunez.
and Chang's like, "What do I do if I see a crime?" And the head guard's like, "What a security guard does, call a cop."
Yeah.
Troy's southern accent, because he's from the country of Georgia,
Mhm.
but he said, "We be much obliged to turn."
Yeah, man, it's P's and Q's.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that's just it's such. And Troy's from Donald Glover's from Georgia,
Atlanta.
right? He's from Atlanta.
Oh,
I think
so.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
isn't there a TV show called Atlanta that he's in?
I mean,
Yeah,
but I think he's from Atlanta, if I remember
Yeah.
right. So it makes it even funnier to me. And it's such a Troy thing to do, and he keeps it going even after they correct him.
Georgia,
He doesn't really
the
care.
country.
Yeah.
Much obliged.
Yeah. Like he knows he's representing the country, but he's still
Right.
doing the accent. And then of course there's the classic crisis alert
Yeah.
from Garrett, which I've always wanted to figure out how to like find that and make that like a notification.
Yeah.
But Apple sucks with notification sounds. You have to buy them, and nobody's made that yet.
You can't like import one from like your device.
I don't think you
storage?
can. And you have to. They're really picky about files and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I really want to make that like my text message bell for
Well,
my mom or
there's the wife.
something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
crisis alert. It's, I don't know. It's fun. It's we haven't seen Garrett for a while either, so it is
Yeah,
fun when he gets to kind of be
yeah.
part of like the main plot.
Mhm.
I mean, he was vaguely in the
He was in like the paintball one.
yeah.
But
We haven't seen him for a while because we haven't recorded, but
no, that's fair. That's all I had for A+. I don't want to take them all. So Christian,
I took the rest of them. For something about Professor C. Cligoris, you don't see him again, and I feel like it'd be kind of fun to have him pop up every once in a while.
yeah,
He just like you love to dislike him. He's just like uncomfortable. Like he keeps like I can't tell if he's flirting with Annie Kim. He's like, oh, somebody's looking for a ride in the wheelchair
Yeah.
or what. But you can also tell that he's just a huge nerd.
mm-hmm.
It's like a model UN would mean that I have to stay up all night creating rules for it. There's the scene where Annie and Jeff storm into the class, which probably wasn't Annie in the class already because that's her class, right?
Yeah.
But they storm in and they're basically saying that Annie Kim stole the idea of a model UN from our Annie. Not that our Annie's better because she's white or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying.
It's just familiarity.
It's just familiarity, right? We know her, we know her ticks and her aspirations. And Jeff is like, man, the idea for the model UN was our Annie's idea. And Professor's just like, oh, really? So you're Clark and Michael Berger. I've had your picture in a locket around my neck since high school.
Yeah.
And just the line he was like, I'm really big into model UNs. They used to call me model UN guy back in college. Don't research that. Whenever the model UN starts, he's like, don't forget that the goal here is to establish a better world for everybody. Ready, set, peace. And he just fires a gun.
Yeah.
Like not even a starter pistol, just an actual gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so funny. I feel like the main conflict is that somebody farted. If you think about it, in the episode, the main conflict is that they can't finish their point. But also, couldn't the moderator see that from the stage, and can they like call a timeout? Like, can we wait for just a second? Like, did they really have to get penalized for not being able to get through?
I don't actually know how Model UN works, so maybe that's supposed to, maybe that's not actually a rule in it, and we're just supposed to believe it is, that you can't stop in the middle for anything.
Right. Well, based off of Parks and Rec, the Model UN doesn't even look anything like that, because they're doing a Model UN off, which I don't think is even really a competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Jeff is like, guys, this is important to Annie. So whoever actually died a few months ago, fess up so we can put a stake through your heart. And that's what sets up Annie's tantrum. Because like everybody starts laughing, and Jeff's like, sorry, Annie, I think the real lesson here is that Model UNs, much like the real UNs, are really pointless. And then there's just this classic Annie, no! Like, perfect.
Yeah.
I think the lesson here is that I need to win this. I want to win. And you suck. You're stupid, ugly, poo-faced, and I'm better than you. It's just the perfect meltdown.
Yeah.
And then it leads into the Jeff creepy line, but other than that, it's fine. So this is a great episode. It's fun to watch. It's got a theme. I think theme episodes in Community are fun, so that's fun. The theme being the Model UN. So I have to ask you for our diorama question: if you were part of the Model UN, if you were on the team, what country would you represent?
I'd probably represent Australia,
Nice.
just because like you obviously get to talk in a cool accent. And if I was in Community, I probably would be talking like the Outback Steakhouse guy. Put a couple steaks on the bobby, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to like make references to like all the animals. Australia gladly gives its poisonous snakes over to fight in the war against China or something. Yeah. So I'd do Australia.
Okay.
I picked Israel. Not for like any particular reason. I just like being controversial. So
you're like, hey, Earth UN #1, is Germany okay with me being on the side?
Yeah.
And in the show, there'd probably be a comment by Pierce about like Annie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Annie would love that because she's a Jew.
Yeah, exactly.
Pierce Shangri-La.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention that Pierce is in this.
Yeah.
He's Somalia.
He's actually like surprisingly like
coherent.
Like helpful.
Yeah,
and,
like helpful and like not racist.
Shangri-La, which that's the joke. Somalia is like an awful place.
Yeah.
Like, not okay. Let me back that up. Let me rephrase that. There's a lot of political corruption in Somalia that makes it very hard to live for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The country Somalia is fine, but he thinks it's great because you can buy guns and women. Yeah. So don't cancel me. I would be Canada because I feel like it's sort of like a utility tool. I always want people to like me, and I'm not as cool as the United States.
Amen.
You could play into the whole thing of like, oh, actually, Annie, I was in a Model UN in high school, but I don't want to brag about that. Or like, I was part of like a political science club, so I kind of know what I'm doing, but I don't want to brag about it. I apologize for everything. Like, maybe we should apologize to Ethiopia for wanting them to secede in the Civil War. Typical Canada stuff. And then Starburns would be like, I agree with that guy because he's got a weed leaf on his flag.
Early in the class, I just had Annie.
Yeah, same. Annie Edison.
Annie Edison.
Yes, I also had Annie.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. Let's see here. Obviously, like, she drives the plot forward. As I mentioned before, I like the Model UN plot more than the Britta and Chang plot. Also, she wins at the end, so I just respect that.
She does.
So
the larger, more symbolic victory.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, she's the main point of the plot. I think her tantrum is, peak Alison Brie acting. She always does a great job with her, like, screaming. She makes it funny. It's not just like, just being loud isn't always funny.
Correct.
But if I had a nickel for I don't know where I was going with that. I forgot what I was going to say. Just good acting. She drives the plot. It's fun to see. Oh, I was going to say earlier, we're talking about with Annie Kim and Annie Edison, like in the debate episode, there's the guy from, I think, is it City College? He's in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like they have kind of a rivalry because, like, they're both smart and they're both head of the debate team. But like the fact that Annie Kim is like basically Annie, like just a like carbon copy of her almost. And they went to the same high school, right? And they were didn't they go to the same school?
Annie and Annie Kim?
Yeah.
No, they went to different high schools.
Did they?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
But they kind of have, it feels like more of an actual rivalry
Mm-hmm.
because they're so like similar. They're both named Annie, obviously.
That little go-getter.
It's fun to have like an actual like conflict, I think, for Annie, where she's like competing. And like there's, you can kind of understand why she's upset. I mean, obviously she kind of takes it overboard, but
you're right. She doesn't have a lot of conflicts in the series. Like,
she's usually kind of just there to like help the group and kind of like be like a
She's the
foil for
amicable
Jeff if
one.
he's,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Can we just talk a little bit about what the go home moment for this show or this episode is? Jeff talks to Annie and says that whenever you hate somebody like Annie hates Annie Kim, whenever you like somebody the way Jeff likes Annie, that's how you infantize them. Like you like call them kiddo, like you downplay them. I feel like that's supposed to be really stirring and touching, but it's still really weird. Because
I
again,
agree.
Jeff is almost 40 in this series and she's 18.
yeah, the kiddo thing, that's one of my nitpicks is it's just kind of, I know it's supposed to be cringe and I don't know,
Right.
it's uncomfortable.
I'm confused. Is he your father or your lover? We're friends. We're good friends. But like, it's almost like, did you know, like there's that like running joke with Transformers 4 and the Romeo and Juliet law, where it's like Michael Bay put in this thing about like, oh, in Texas, you're allowed to date a minor if you both started dating while you were minors. And like, and then like in the movie, like they just have like this 30-second shot of this card that says the Romeo and Juliet law. Like, I want you to know it's okay that we have this underage plot in the movie. Like, that's what this feels like. Of like, it's almost okay that Jeff is like infantizing her. And I think what it's meant to do, and they come back to it a couple episodes later, is that like, oh, like you're actually becoming, I think he mentions that in the episodes, like you're becoming a like strong, self-possessed, intellectual woman. And we need more people like you. But then he still makes the whole like not in a hot way. It just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where, okay, and we've talked about this plenty of times on the show before and everything, but like Jeff, just take a swing. Like, I don't like, because again, it's Greendale. Like people are gonna like feel weird about it and make jokes about it, but like, if you really just want to be with her, just be with her. And it's like, obviously, like, we need our characters to be flawed, or we have no room to grow, stuff like that. But like, it's one of those like annoying things with like them especially, where it's like, just go for it. I don't know.
They almost make a bigger deal about the fact that they're not dating, but they should be, or not that they should be, but it's like if they just would date, it still would be weird, but they just kind of keep beating the same joke.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess, or the same thing. Yeah.
And I think in a real world scenario, what Jeff's mindset might be is that I know if I were to go for it, it would just end in me being disappointed and hurt. So I want to drag it out because then there's still that like
maybe
that optimism that it would work out. Because I think it's pretty similar to what we had at the end of season 1 too, of like Slater versus Britta. Like, Britta is something exciting, and well, she used to be. She's not anymore. Used to be something exciting and like kind of like stirring and helps me grow. But Slater is like comfortable. I feel like to Jeff, Annie is above both of them because she's like young and caring and like still kind of like naive, maybe not cynical, not jaded.
She's Nick Nolte. Aww.
And so maybe that's why he never pulls the trigger. Is it's like in a really weird, messed up way, like he's living vicariously through her. I don't know. I don't even know if I back that statement up, but it's an idea. I for my leading the class, I said Chang and Britta just because it was kind of fun to see them with the dynamic. But any extra credit?
Yeah, I thought the sign in the security guard office I thought was funny in the background. It says "Riot Gear is not a toy." I'd like to know the story behind that. And then Annie Kim is an homage to, I found this on IMDb, it's not me knowing this, but I guess Dan Harmon wanted Annie Edison to be Asian when he was planning the show. but they cast Allison Brie, so then they bring Asian Annie Kim. It's kind of like an homage to that.
No, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
And one thing I do want to say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I like whenever Annie is kind of going off at the lunch table of like, oh, it's fine. I didn't want to leave the Model UN and have her meet people like, Boutros Ghali, Will.i.am. And Troy's like, oh, Boutros Ghali?
Yeah.
Like, you think the joke is that, not everybody knows who that is, but they know who Will.i.am is. And I thought it was going to be another like Yang Wei Mecca Deng Deng Jr., but then I was like, oh no, he was actually like really influential in like in the UN, and like he was the first like second foreign minister for Egypt's like new government. So like he's a real person. I think he died in 2016 though. So
rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Rest of power.
Marked in red. In conclusion, this episode is one of my favorites. Like I said, I have it as an 8 out of 10. I don't know why. I must have been pissed when I was watching this because I would. Now I'm going to bump it up again. 9 out of 10. I think this episode is really funny. I mean, I like both plots. The Britta Chang one isn't great, but like there's been worse subplots.
Yeah.
And it's I don't love Britta becoming a joke. I like Britta in season 1 and season 2. I mean, I hate like they kind of massacred her now. Look at the massacre of my girl.
Yeah.
I like Britta, and I hate that she kind of becomes the butt of the joke. But it does also let her become more than just like the girl that Jeff's trying to shag.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of fine. I do like the theme episodes, like you were talking about. The Model UN is kind of a themed ep, and it's so many good lines come out of it. The Troy with the Georgia accent, Crisis Alert, all of that. So it had 9 out of 10 for me for this episode. It's probably my top tier. It's like a A minus B plus episode. I will say we've talked a lot about toilet humor on the show and how much we don't like it, but I do like the Spartacus. No, I farted. Guys, I wasn't trying to do the Spartacus thing.
Yeah.
Guys, I wasn't trying to do the Spartacus thing.
So,
I farted.
I'll give it a pass for this episode because, fart humor doesn't really have a place in Community, but it works for this one.
I will say, like, this is one of those episodes, like, if this was like a season 1 episode, I think this would be like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 caliber. And I think season 3, they've really fine-tuned the show. It's not quite season 2, but like they've really fine-tuned the show to where this can be like a top tier episode. I gave it a 7 out of 10 originally. I think I'm going to bump it up to like 7.5. We were just putting it on here before we started recording here, but like it's a good time. It's a good episode. Yeah. Again, theme episodes are great. There's stuff I would like to watch again and go back to, or hear again, or jokes I would hear again here. And yeah, I just feel like, man, this is like, it's like watching a kid grow up a little bit here, where I'm like, if this was a season 1 episode, I think we'd be like, oh wow, what were they thinking with that side plot? And the main plot was solid. And I feel go ahead.
Season 1 had some surprising episodes though, because I do remember that we talked about how this feels like an episode later in the series.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see how they could have fumbled like Pierce is just being racist the entire time. Or Shirley's just talking about like, well, I don't want to be in this country because I'm not a Christian, right? Like, but yeah, I recognize that. But keep going. Sorry.
No, I mean that's pretty much it. Like, 7.5 out of 10 for me. What you got, bro?
Yeah, I really enjoy this episode whenever it's in my playlist. I think it's in a slot of a couple episodes that aren't outstanding. I mean, like, we'll talk about the alternate timeline one next week, and that's sort of like an all-timer. But like, we talked about how the first episode wasn't like outstanding, wasn't a breakthrough. I'm not a huge fan of the next episode that we'll talk about in our next episode of YAA, but this is always a fun one, like to kind of pop up. And I think it's one that I would seek out on like the playlist anyway. Like sometimes you're like, you know what, I want to watch the Bear Down for Midterms Dance. I mean, that's not one that I would, but like it's one of those episodes. So I'm going to rate it a NATO out of League of Nations. So know anything about history? NATO is still around. League of Nations isn't. So NATO's better. So good episode. But until next time, it has been Christian Jingle All the Way, Jonathan Holly Jolly, and Ethan, yes, Kwanzaa. We're so excited to be back for YAA 3.0. Woo! And we will see y'all later. Let's go!